Hey friends, it's Michael Golzmane here, and I'm creating this video to connect with you and with people who are interested in looking at spiritual clearing and healing work of the kind that I do with regards to physical health conditions. So there is a sort of certain perspective that I have developed and come to, which feels very resonant, powerful, and I find to be very effective when it comes to looking at healing of the physical body through a holistic lens, through a spiritual lens, no matter what techniques you may be using to work on helping to heal a physical health condition. I think this perspective can be insightful for you. First, I also want to say that I'm not a medical doctor, and this is not meant to be medical advice for you. And I really strongly encourage you to work with medical practitioners and holistic practitioners that are resonant with you in any healing process. So this is where I've come to with regards to healing of the physical body. First, I want to say that you are not a physical being only. Any perspective that is seeking to isolate out only the physical components of your being and say that you only exist as a bunch of chemicals is going to be limited. Now, there is very great value to approaching healing chemically. It's a part of our being. I'm not trying to deny that. But again, from a holistic perspective, we want to look at this idea that we are a spiritual being having a physical experience. We have a large spiritual background. And what I mean by spiritual is that which is beyond the level of what we can sense with our five physical senses in the here and now. And any healing or clearing approach, especially to physical conditions, that denies that or doesn't, that's not a part of the approach, is going to be limited, perhaps hugely limited, because it will not be able to see the larger perspective. So again, I cannot necessarily prove what I'm saying to you here, but this has become my experience in working with many people, and I think it's a very useful perspective. So just stay with me on this. I have found people have many, many past lives. Now that may sound, again, shocking to you, but many, many thousands of past lives. Our soul's history is really infinite in length. It did not begin simply with our physical conception or our physical birth here in this life. So what has happened in that part of our soul's history, that very large part of our soul's history, has an impact now. Some people in psychology or some people in various holistic modalities will tend to look back a little bit at our past. They may look back to our childhood and say, okay, well, there could be things unresolved from childhood that are affecting you now. And I will say that that is true, but there can be things from many, many thousands of past lives that are affecting you now. It will be impossible to really come to a very holistic, I think, reasonable perspective on health and healing and wholeness if you cannot accept that reality. And I know some of that reality initially is accepted simply on belief or on faith, though the more I work with helping to resolve people's past life karmic issues in clearing work, the more I find that that work is very, very powerful and effective. So in terms of your ultimate spiritual creation, let's get back to some nice light topics here. You are created in the likeness and image of ultimate spirit, also known as God or creator or source, which means that you were created in love and in wholeness. There isn't necessarily an ultimate good power and an ultimate evil power that are fighting it out in your body, as some of your tissues are healthy and some of them are not healthy, and this ultimate good and evil power sort of fighting it out in your body. That's not the case. There is an ultimate power for good, and it is the power that is really the truth of your being. It's your own source, and it's actually what is responsible for the fact that no matter what you have going on health-wise now, the vast majority, in most cases, of your cells and of your tissues are still functioning at a very high level of consciousness, being able to metabolize, being able to respirate, being able to heal, being able to detoxify, all sorts of functions happening in many trillions of cells all at the same time. You are created in good, you are created in love, you are created in holistic awareness. Now, so why can there be such a thing called disease? Well, over the course of this gets back to how we've come to be at all. We have emanated as individual expressions of this one creative source. Some people call that God. And we've originated many, many eons of time ago. And so we've had experiences, and we've had many experiences in these lifetimes. And some of the experiences have seemed to be good, and some of them have seemed to be not so good. We may have had a lot of past life trauma. We may have created a lot of what's called reactionary karmic energy in these lifetimes from our overall state of relatively limited consciousness in these lifetimes. Remember, the whole process of spiritual involution and evolution in general is one of us sort of forgetting our initial creative source, coming into this physical realm, and then trying to remember. We try to remember through looking at the five sense material reality around us and trying to make sense of life through that way. And ultimately, life doesn't make sense through simply a materialist perspective at all. And so we begin to awaken over eons of time, realizing there's more to the story than just the physical. So when we're in this state, this relative state of having this material experience, this human experience, even though we're spiritual beings, we begin to create a lot of misperceptions and misjudgments around what life is all about. And this is what we call spiritual programs in this clearing work that I help to facilitate. The spiritual programs are basically the reactionary energy that we create in reaction to life circumstances, to ourselves, to our beliefs about God, to our beliefs about other people, to situations in life as well. We may create spiritual programs of hatred, of anger, of resentment, of sadness, of bitterness, of appeasement, blocking, various types of blocks to abundance, blocks to joy, blocks to peace. What does all this mean, and how does this come to be? Well, we create this energy. It doesn't happen to us. We create it based on our limited perception of who we are and what life is all about. That's what it's all about. This programming is also known as karma. It could be known as the Akashic database. It could be known as the subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it. We don't have to get so extremely technical here. You don't have to try to figure all this out or be overwhelmed with what I'm telling you here, because there are some simpler solutions to how to access and resolve this energy. What I'm saying, though, is that throughout our soul's history, we've created this reactionary energy because of our own limited perceptions about who we are and what life is. When we hold on to that reactionary energy, it becomes part of our inner programming. I call this sometimes the soul. You know, the soul might be considered to be that ultimate, powerful, creative, loving source that we are all created in, which I mentioned earlier. But in addition to that, you might consider that our source is also all the stuff that we believe that we are. There's kind of this ultimate perfect reality within us, and there's this relative reality that we have created, mostly accidentally, from a limited space of perception, limited consciousness, but also throughout our whole soul's history. So, in a sense, you could look at it like there's this ultimate good and this ultimate bad or negative or evil at play. It's not really like that, but it can seem like that sometimes. So there's this ultimate creative source, this power of spirit within us. There's our relative creation of our beliefs about life. Now, when we strongly emotionalize this energy throughout our soul's history, these beliefs, these programs of anger and bitterness and judgment and blocks to abundance and blocks to peace and blocks to health and all sorts of other things, when we strongly emotionalize those, what often happens is that we do not resolve them in the moments in which we create them. We simply suppress or repress them in the subconscious. And when we do that often enough, day after day, lifetime after lifetime, we begin to create this strong field of energy within our subconscious. And this strong field of energy has to be eventually worked out. Let's get back to a second for a moment to what is the purpose of our life at all? These are big questions. You might not have thought that I'd get into this stuff in a video about health, but these are all relevant and these are all highly related questions. We're created in this spiritual perfection. We're created in the image and likeness of ultimate divine reality. We're created as unique expressions, though also we have unique gifts and ways of expressing that ultimate source energy in that as our own lives. So what's the purpose of life? What's the purpose of being here and incarnating at all? Well, however you want to get into specifics about that, there's one overarching theme that I will mention that's true for all of us, and the purpose is for us to grow and to evolve. We're here to learn. We're here to learn and to evolve. All the spiritual traditions, ultimately at their mystical roots, say this, that we've chosen to have this sort of physical incarnational experience where we can sort of believe that we are separate from Source, and in continuously believing and creating from a place of separateness from Source, we're not really separate, but we can believe that we're separate. We create this alternative reality, which is our subconscious programming, which is our karmic database. So we're here to experience that. We're here, first and foremost, to kind of create that illusory energy within us. But then we're here to transcend that. We're here to clear it. We're here to resolve it. We're here to get through that. How do we know if we're in the midst of, where we're at in the midst of our creating the illusion, that illusory karmic database I talked about, or resolving? How do we know where we're at in that process? Well, one of the ways we can know is if we're having health challenges. Health challenges, remember I said there's an ultimate source for good, and that's the source that we emanate from. The source, you could call it God or source or spirit, does not create disease. There is no disease in ultimate source and ultimate reality. And this has been sort of misconstrued in many spiritual circles when, healers will want to come to you and you'll be in a state of suffering or a state of disease, and the healer will look at you and say, you have no disease, you have no problems, you have no issues. Okay, so where I come from on that particular issue is in the physical realm. If you're in a place of pain right now, you're in a place of diagnosed illness, you're in a place of suffering, I am not going to tell you you don't have pain, you don't have suffering. I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to deny your pain or pretend it's not there or tell you to pretend it's not there. At the same time, I want us to be able to hold, in our healing process, it can become important, in my experience, for us to hold a dual space, so to speak. Being open and available to what we are experiencing. Yes, I'm experiencing a crappy day. I'm experiencing pain. I'm experiencing suffering. I'm experiencing a diagnosed illness. This is what I'm experiencing right now. Yes, we have to embrace that. At the same time, looked at from the highest realms of spirit, there is no disease at that level. There is no ultimate cause of the disease. There is only a relative cause of the disease. In the relative cause means that ultimate God, ultimate spirit did not create the condition. It's the result. The condition is the result of what we have been creating in the relative field of experience throughout our soul's history, including this lifetime. That may sound like a huge amount to get your mind around. Hear what I'm saying here. I am not telling you first and foremost that your disease is a punishment. It's not a punishment coming from you. It's not a punishment coming from God. It's not a punishment. It's not someone up in the clouds somewhere telling you, hey, that Michael down there, boy, we should really give him a disease because, boy, he would really learn from that, and wouldn't that be fun? No, there's no power like that exists that's giving you a disease in order to test you, in order to punish you because you did something wrong. It's not the way karma works. At the same time, it's important to also realize that we are not really ever a victim of anything happening outside of us, even though we may have evidence to point to things that people have done to us in this lifetime or even other lifetimes. We're not really a victim of circumstances or what has happened to us. We always have been at a place where we can choose how to respond and how to react to circumstances, which means that what we're holding on to now, at some level of our being, as challenging as this may be to accept, is our choice. It's some level of I have chosen, if someone comes to me and they really piss me off, okay, I can choose to react to them in anger. That's something coming from me. They're not causing me to react that way because someone else might come up to that same situation and respond in a different way. So the person's not causing me to react or respond in a certain way. It's where I'm coming from, my frame of reference, or what I'm choosing in the moment that's causing the response. So ultimately speaking, what we have accumulated in terms of our subconscious, in terms of our soul's history, and what is causing this response in our being, which we might call disease. In some people, it comes through as physical disease, is something that we have created, though we've often created it accidentally. We didn't realize we were creating this energy, this programming throughout these many lifetimes. We thought many people exist at this level of victim consciousness where they believe these other people are causing all my problems, society is causing my problems, my parents are causing the problems, God's causing my problems. And so lifetime after lifetime, we blame everything else and everybody else. And until we get to a place, perhaps in this lifetime, where we begin to realize, wait a minute, I have the power, if I choose to, I have the power to affect my results. I have the power to change my feelings, at least, or my attitude, and I have the power to change my results in life. And this is a very high level of consciousness that most of the earth plane has never even been at before. The belief that you can actually do something to shift within yourself, to change your results, whether it's a disease or whether it's just simply your attitude towards something, it's a very advanced spiritual idea. When you start to believe that and start to know that and start to see the results of that happening in your life, you are on the cusp of unwinding the entire issue. When you believe that you have the power to change your life and you take action from that place, you are on the cutting edge of your soul's evolution. So let me review what I'm saying once again. I know I'm trying to fit a lot into this video. We are created in divine perfection. Over the course of thousands of lifetimes, we have often accidentally, largely accidentally, created a lot of reactionary energy, which we did not resolve at the time because we didn't really feel very empowered to do so. That reactionary energy is still stored in our soul's history. It's still stored in our subconscious mind, and it may be coming forth as a disease condition in the body. Does not mean we're being punished, doesn't mean we really did anything wrong. There is no right or wrong in spirit. There's just growth, learning, opportunities. There's ultimate loving consciousness, ultimate loving reality, and then there's growth and learning opportunities. So what does growth and learning mean, or what does growth and learning have to do with health conditions? Well, when we have a health condition, we often begin to really wake up and say, I have to do something about this. Sometimes we'll get a diagnosis, or we'll go to a doctor, and we'll try pharmaceuticals, we'll try various therapies and surgeries, and these are not bad things. They're sometimes extremely important, and I should encourage them. And sometimes, though, when the conditions are more complex, these therapies are not necessarily the ideal or the only way to approach a condition. One of the reasons for that, though, is because the condition is not emanating from the physical world. So if you only try to treat it through a physical method, you're going to end up with limited results. We have to understand that. There's a physical expression of disease, but doesn't mean that the ultimate cause of disease, especially complicated disease, doesn't mean that the ultimate cause of it is in the physical world. And I would contend that the cause of all physical conditions is not in the physical world. Why does one person who's exposed to a virus get it and the other person next to them not get it? Many complex factors involved. I would say at a soul level that one person may not have needed the virus. The other person may have for some perhaps minor or some major growth lesson. So the idea of growth at a soul level is that we have to eventually begin to resolve the stuff that has been unresolved in our soul's history. And the way that we do that is by having it presented as symptoms. It comes up in our life as symptoms. We can't avoid the symptoms. We're like, I'm in such pain, I can't avoid this anymore. And oftentimes, especially if someone has been through the medical route over time and found that it's been other than 100% effective for them, they may begin to their resistance breaks down. They may begin to look for alternatives, and they may begin to look within themselves and say, oh, wait a minute, I have to put all my cards on the table here, and I have to really do my inner work. There might be an emotional component, there might be a mental component. I'm saying here that there's also a spiritual karmic component, and that will really, seriously, when the soul begins to look at these issues, when your own higher consciousness says, hey, you know what, Michael down there, he's really understanding that this condition in his life it's not because he did something wrong. It's not because he's a terrible person. It's not random also. It's not random. There's an exact group of causes. It may not be one cause. If someone has a very serious condition, for instance, There may be an accumulation of hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes in which certain themes and patterns, for instance, repeated resentment, repeated anger, repeated hatred, all these themes might have been repeated over and over again, and over those hundreds of lifetimes, I may not have learned how to really forgive and let go. I store and stuff all this energy in my emotional body. I die in those past lifetimes eventually, and those issues get stored in my soul records. I come back into this lifetime not having resolved those issues, and those issues now come forward again, and they might present as a physical health condition or physical disease. Remember, you're not being punished. If you have a physical health condition right now, it's because there's a part of your soul that's trying to wake you up and saying, there's something here to look at, to resolve. And you want to really use every technique at your disposal. I'm not one of those people who says, well, you need to use metaphysical healing and prayer, and anything else is just showing a lack of spirituality and faith. I'm not one of those people at all. Use every method at your disposal. Use the spiritual methods to help release and resolve the underlying issues. Use emotional and mental techniques. Use holistic and non-holistic as you're guided to physical modalities to help yourself. It's about, as one of my teachers said, it's about stacking the odds in your favor and continuously doing things that resonate with you, that help you to feel better, so that you can begin to look at the wide range of components that you are. You're a physical being, you're an emotional being, mental and spiritual being. You can begin to look at all these things. And as you begin to resolve, you begin to feel over time, man, this dis-ease is shaking loose from my being. It's no longer overwhelming me. I can feel it's on its way out. I can feel like what I'm doing is being guided. You begin to trust yourself more deeply, saying, wow, I know I'm moving in this right direction. I know I'm not being punished. I'm not going to punish myself anymore. I'm not going to think I'm less than or I'm not spiritual enough for having this health condition. I'm going to look at it and say, you know what, this is an opportunity for my soul to grow. So one of the questions I ask in my individual clearing work for my clients who are dealing with physical health challenges now is, does this person's soul need this condition for any purpose? It may sound strange, but the answer is inevitably yes when someone is in the midst of their healing process. The soul needs the physical health condition in order to continue to awaken us to the underlying issues that the health condition represents. As we work through the exact reasons in the spiritual clearing work as to why the soul needs the condition in the first place, and we resolve those at a soul level, my ideal in each clearing session that we do when it comes to physical health issues is to get the soul to say, no, I no longer need this health condition. And to get the body and the physical body, the emotional body, all the components to agree, yes, I agree, I no longer need this health condition. That's how we know. If we can get to that by the end of a clearing session, we know, or it may take many clearing sessions, we know that we're on our way. We know that the demise of the illness is on its way. It's imminent. Because as the soul releases the need for the condition cannot continue to exist. Because remember, there is no ultimate reality supporting disease. There's no ultimate evil power. There's no ultimate lack and limitation power. There's spirit. There is that one true power of spirit, of God, of source. That's the truth of your being. That's where you emanate. That's what your trillions and trillions of cells are operating from, that consciousness every single day. And if there's some disease there, it's because there's something that's kind of gotten in the way. We can look at it from a karmic perspective, begin to resolve those issues that are playing out in your physical body. And as we begin to do that, your physical body says, oh, there's no cause to this health condition anymore. The cause has been released. And so your physical body, much like when you cut your finger, if you were chopping vegetables, cut your finger, your physical body's like, oh, we're healing this now. We're sending white blood cells. We're coagulating the blood. We're healing infection. Your body knows how to heal itself. Once the energetic spiritual causes are out of the way, a couple things can happen. This is what I tell my clients. One is that the condition may dissipate on its own. You may no longer have the condition and it just goes away. Secondly, the techniques and strategies that you're using to heal the condition, for instance, in the physical world, like certain herbs or certain practitioners or certain pharmaceuticals or whatever it is, they may all of a sudden work. If they haven't been really working in the past, they may begin to work because your subconscious is allowing them to work. There are many people who are trying everything in their power to fix a condition. They believe that they're broken. They believe they need to fix a health condition, but they don't realize that until their actual being wants to heal and is ready to heal, because the underlying issues around the physical health condition have been resolved at a subconscious level, their body will not allow them to heal anyway. That's one of the challenges in the medical world with trying to figure out a cure for a disease. Cures in the medical world often are supposed to work in spite of a person's belief system. Oh, we want this pill to cure this particular condition in 100% of the people who have it. There can't really ever be anything like that because physical health conditions do not emerge from the physical world. Even people who get, a medical doctor can diagnose you as saying, well, you have this condition because you were exposed to this particular toxin or this particular virus. Yeah, that's true. That's the relative cause. But there's a deeper cause that's going on in the subconscious, in your emotional body. That's also important to look at. Yes, use all the strategies that you need to, that you feel guided to do, that your medical advisor is giving you. And this component of working with the Akashic records, the karmic database, releasing your soul's need for the health condition in the first place, this is absolutely critically important. And by the way, there is no bad health karma, really. You may be experiencing the results of what's happening, what's unresolved in your soul records in terms of a health condition now, but when you release the karma that is creating the health condition in your being, you will find that every other area of your life will begin working better as well. There's no compartmentalization in spirit. When you begin releasing, for instance, anger and self-hatred and lack of self-forgiveness are major components in pretty much everyone's healing process. When you begin to resolve and release that, you'll find that your money situation is working better, your relationships are working better, your career and your sense of creativity are working better. Every area of life begins to work better when you begin to get and root out and resolve the underlying issues that are going on in your subconscious and your past lives and soul records. So I have laid out pretty much the perspective that I have come to. There's a lot of nuance to this. There's a lot more questions I can answer. I may do that in future videos, or if you want to email me, please feel free to email me and ask me more about your specific case. But I think I've laid it out here and now with regards to my perspective and my experience with helping at a spiritual level to resolve health conditions that are appearing in the body. So I hope you have found this video informative and encouraging. Remember, one last thing I'll say, you are not to blame. Blaming yourself or blaming anyone else, including God, is never going to be helpful. But it is important to realize that you can take the responsibility of realizing, this is my consciousness, that somehow, I don't remember how in this moment, but somehow throughout my soul's history, my consciousness has created or stagnated in this way that is out-picturing in my life as this health condition now. But there's a lot that I can do about that. And as I resolve, I know that life loves me, life is for me, not against me, life is wanting to be whole. And also keep in mind that the ultimate purpose of healing isn't necessarily the releasing of a physical health condition. There's a lot we can do about that. There's a lot we can do to help shift you. But remember, the purpose ultimately of healing is to know your oneness with spirit, to recognize it's a spiritual healing. Some conditions may or may not be fixed in this physical lifetime, in that strictly physical sense. And that also has to remain okay. We can still find peace, we can still find love, we can still find resolution, we can still find God in the midst of this through an inner shift, an inner opening, an inner healing that we have. And that's important to also keep in mind. Do not blame yourself for having this health condition. Don't get down on yourself for it, but do realize there's much you can do. There's much you can do to help resolve, to release the condition. And I just encourage you to continue to seek that out. If you're wanting my specific advice on this, please click below this video. I'm happy to connect with you more on this. Until then, friends, peace and blessings to you. Thanks for watching this video.